Today on the show, we talk about the emotional side of entrepreneurship that is so critical, yet nobody seems to be talking about. Today, before we kick off this episode, I want to thank our sponsor, For You, From Me, by Raj Daniels. This book is phenomenal. If you know Raj Daniels, and you can check out episodes 1 and 2 of this show in order to get to know him a little bit better. If you know him, then you know what an inspiration he is, just in the guidance that he gives in his own life, person by person on a one-by-one basis. And his book is no different. It's really a clear vision of how you should be approaching life, presented in a way that is, it's simple to take action on. And that's so important these days. It's really meant to be taken, a chapter at a time, and then take that sort of lesson of the day and let it sink in, let it soak in, and kind of color your whole day. So make sure you check out For You, From Me by Raj Daniels. It's on Amazon. Get you a copy right now. How's it going, everybody? Jason Croft here, the Credibility Craftsman. And today on the show, I've got Lea Ellermeier. She is an accomplished businesswoman, entrepreneur, and speaker, author. Gosh, the list goes on and on. She's so fantastic. I had the good fortune to meet her at Erin Smith's Entrepreneur Summit. And from all her accomplishments, it was reason enough to bring her on the show. But an amazing conversation I had with her during the summit was all around this emotional struggle of being an entrepreneur that any of us who have gone through it completely acknowledge. It is a very different animal than going to work for somebody day in and day out. Maybe that's its own emotional struggle as well, but there's some unique challenges that come with being an entrepreneur, and she has some amazing insights and solutions along those lines. And I really wanted to get that story along with her other accomplishments to you, to really share those with all of you on the show. And I'm so glad she did. So let's jump in with Lea Ellermeier. Lea Ellermeier, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Are you ready to roll? I
am ready to roll.
Awesome, because that's what we're doing. So I hope you're ready.
We're rolling, yeah. Right. Whether I'm ready or not, I guess.
So I had the good fortune to hear you speak at Entrepreneur Summit, to have a fantastic conversation with you at Entrepreneur Summit, Erin Smith's event here a couple of weeks ago. And I thought, for a number of reasons, you have to be on the show. You have no choice. You have to be on. So, for my audience's sake, what really amazed me was certainly your background, your journey up to where you are now, and some great business success there. And then also the latest product you're about to roll out, the latest company you're with and rolling out. Both of those things were enough to I gotta share this with my audience. But then an extra layer to all this is something that I think is so critical to the conversation at large, which is a lot of the emotional side of entrepreneurship.
Sure. Yeah.
And so if that isn't too big a task,
no.
Go.
Okay. So I'm an entrepreneur. The company that I'm in right now, it's called Replica Dental Technologies, and we're actually a dental technology company. Which is obvious by our name, right? We make customized tooth replacement product. It's not available in the United States yet. We're working on our FDA approval. We hope to have that soon. Right now, the company's main focus is in the European Union.
Gotcha.
So my business partner, Rutger Rubert, and I started the company about 8 years ago. Prior to that, we started another dental technology company called Lingual Care. We made customized braces that went behind your teeth.
Oh, wow.
So mostly for adults, which was cool. And then we sold that company to a division of 3M, one of their healthcare divisions. So, and then prior to that, we were with another dental technology company that Rutger had started. I joined after it was going as the VP of Sales and Marketing. So my background prior to that was mostly software. So I'd worked in different software companies. I've worked in 5 different startups now. So obviously that's an environment that I like and where I feel comfortable.
Yes. Or you're a glutton for punishment and you just keep going back.
Well, there's just something about that opportunity. It's the blank slate, right? It's uncharted territory. So I guess
that unlimited upside.
Right. That opportunity to discover and to kind of create it as you go. So I really like that. And one of the things that I talked about at the Entrepreneur Summit, actually with Erin, and because I thought it was an important topic, I recently wrote a book called Finding the Exit.
Very nice.
And
available on Amazon. Yes.
It's available on Amazon.
Cool.
Yes, Finding the Exit. And one of the things I discuss in the book is a lot of the emotional part of being an entrepreneur that I don't see in other places and I don't hear other people talking about, because it's really difficult. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs feel alone in that.
Sure.
Because somebody asks you, oh, how's the company going? And you immediately revert into this pitch mode. Oh, it's great. You start talking about the upcoming deals that you've got and all the accomplishments. And, because you own it. You have to sell it, right? It's almost like a betrayal if you were to say, oh, wow, things aren't going very well, right?
Right. And it's such a crazy time and a crazy mix of all that stuff too, because in part, as the business owner, that's your job to say that and have that face, right?
Yeah.
But I think the problem is too I guess two things are happening right now. One, the problem is when that's your default, no matter who you're talking to, your spouse, or anybody else,
right?
That can become a problem emotionally, as you're getting at. But then also what's happening now too is we're starting to see entrepreneurs have that success by opening up and revealing, hey, I don't know what I'm doing right now in this area, I need help, and asking for that. And we're seeing some phenomenal results from that.
I think there's a couple things. I mean, first of all, as an entrepreneur, you take on so many things, right? You take on the legal aspects of your company, the marketing aspects, the financial aspects, all these things, and you're expected to know a lot, especially when you're broke, because you can't hire a lot of outside resources to fill you in, right? So you end up, borrowing contracts from people and changing them yourself and hoping that they're good enough, right? So there's that, and it's hard sometimes, to your point, to admit, oh, I don't know this. I have no clue. But there's some power in that vulnerability of saying to another person, I don't know, I really need help. Will you help me? What I found is that when I was willing to tell other people that I needed help, most people were absolutely willing to help me out.
Yeah.
Especially another entrepreneur, because we're all in this thing together. But to your point about being in pitch mode all the time, as an entrepreneur, you've taken tremendous financial risks. So it's very hard to go to your spouse and say, well, it's not looking really good, because they're probably already freaked out. Right? You need that next customer to sign up. Right? So you definitely want to have your best face forward to your customers and then to your employees. You want them to trust you and to believe that you're going to be okay and that this is a safe place to work and that they don't have to worry, right? Because you want them focused on the job. So I think that all the reasons for not talking about what's going on are totally legitimate.
But that doesn't necessarily mean you should still
But then you end up carrying it all inside.
Right.
And you'll reach a point where you need an outlet for that. And that's why I think that entrepreneurs talking to other entrepreneurs is great, because you know what that other person's talking about. You've probably been through it yourself, and you're not going to judge. And I say find someone that doesn't have any skin in the game. Right? They have no vested interest in your company. Right. You don't want to have that conversation with a board member or another employee, because they do have a vested interest.
Yeah, and that's so key at this. You're not going to go, talk to your employee and just like, man, doors are about to close. I don't know what to do.
I don't know how we're going to make payroll. I hope you paid your mortgage this month, because if you didn't, you're in trouble. No, exactly.
But yeah, it's critical to find that not just sympathetic ear, but someone, like you say, with the experience in this, who goes, oh yeah, absolutely. You need to do this, and this. And also sometimes just listen, just to hear it. And it's like, I get it. That sucks. You'll get through.
Exactly. Allowing you to have the opportunity to say it, because sometimes just in the saying of it, owning it, you figure out the answer. right? But when you're just holding it inside, it feels a lot bigger than it probably really is.
Yeah, isn't that so true in so many areas?
Yeah, no, it is. You know, it's like there's nothing. There's a friend of mine used to say, "You're only as sick as your secrets," and I think that's true. You know, being able to talk about those things, verbalizing them, and then figuring out how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of pressure. And I think that the more we entrepreneurs talk to each other about it and make that, you know, open to the world, the easier it is, because this is a hard journey.
Oh yeah.
And you're in it for a long time.
Yeah, and it's not to say don't do it. Just know that it's going to be hard as you go through it.
Well, I think that obviously this is my 5th startup company, so I'm all in. I think working in a startup company, whether you're an employee or whether you're the founder, it should be like a dog year on your resume. You know how like they say for every human year, a dog lives 7 years. I think you should get 7 years of credit on your resume.
Absolutely.
For every year you spend in a startup company, because you do touch so many things, right? And you're just in this constant learning mode. You know, I think the other side of, you know, being able to talk about those emotions is that once you've cleared that, your thinking is just going to be clearer.
Yep, absolutely. And so how have you tackled that? Number one, like, how has this sort of come to light in your life? Like, when was a wake up call for you to say, like, I've got to talk to somebody about it. I can't keep holding this in like this.
You know, I had a moment with my last company, Lingual Care, and I wrote about it in my book, where I was in the middle of due diligence with several companies because we were selling lingual care, and we had several different companies who were looking at it. I was also going through a divorce.
Wow.
And my son was having a really difficult time with the whole thing. So one night I felt like I couldn't breathe, right? Because I wasn't talking to anybody about what's going on. I was trying to get through it. It's like, if I just get to the other side of this, everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I get a phone call as I'm driving to the office from my business partner, who's rattling up this list of things. Can you do this and this and this and this? And I literally couldn't breathe. I said, you know what? I think I'm having a heart attack right now in the car. I need to hang up. I've got to go to the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't. I was having an anxiety attack. And I realized through that experience that I had just been holding on to so many things. I didn't want to even allow the smallest crack in the veneer. Because then I thought the whole thing would just blow up.
Right. The company's going to crash.
The company's going to crash.
You got to, yeah.
You know, and that's a lot to, I mean, obviously that's kind of an extreme example. I've had other situations where, I found that if I start shutting down my emotions, it's like an on-off switch. It's not, oh, I'm going to shut off the fear, but I'm still going to feel good. I'm still going to feel happy. And if I reach a point of feeling kind of numb to everything, that's usually an indicator that I'm in a bad place.
Right. Oh,
because
yeah.
I've shut off the fear, and I've also shut off all the joy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know? And so sometimes you're just reminding yourself to feel joyful, even about something small. You know, I had a really bad day a few days ago, and I came home, and this plant that I thought was on its last legs that I own, it was this beautiful plant that someone had given me, and I felt really bad about the fact that it wasn't going to make it. I came home and I noticed there was one tiny new leaf sprouting from the top of it, you know, and all of a sudden I thought, it made me cry. I thought, wow,
oh my goodness.
You know, this plant is going to make it. Maybe I'm going to make it.
One little
thing.
Hope, yeah.
You know, the other thing is to not stop taking care of yourself.
Yes,
it's really easy to take on everybody else's burden and to stop doing things like working out or going for a walk or going to a movie or just stepping out of all the things, because that's the other part of being an entrepreneur. The job never ends.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, there's always something.
There's always something.
So there's always that guilt of like, well, I can't go spend 2 hours in a movie.
Right.
You know how many emails I could answer?
Exactly. Or I could write another blog post, or I could work on some new, you know, social media campaign. And just recognizing that the amount of worry that you commit to your business is not going to have any
It's not a
impact on the
one-to-one
outcome.
return, right?
You know,
Right.
it's not like if I put all this into the worry bank, it's going to pay off.
Right.
Because
And so what, when you kind of had this realization, you had that moment and everything, what came out of that? Was it like an all at once, like, okay, I've got to start doing this? Or was it like just the first wake up call on your journey to being open to giving yourself time and talking about these things?
It was really the first time I really acknowledged the emotional toll of it. Being in this next company, the one that I'm in now, we've had a lot of, setbacks and then things starting again. And what I realized in this process is I can't live on that roller coaster emotionally, right? I have to, even though I am very committed and I am very attached to the company, I can't let the outcome of every project we do totally impact my emotional state.
Right.
Because if I do that, I'm not going to be any good for the company.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I did before. I took it all on. So now I try to, I'm not going to say I've been perfect at it. But when I start feeling a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear, I have to stop myself. And I have a new little line that I use, and I stole it from Brene Brown, so I have to give her a shout out. And that is to say, the story I'm telling myself right now is, right? So let's say we lose a customer, or we tried to close a customer and it didn't happen. And the story that I'll start telling myself is, okay, no one's ever going to buy it. It's not any good. Where am I going to find the next customer?
Right.
They're going to tell all their people that they don't like it and give bad reasons why. And then I realize I'm just in this spiral of negativity.
Right, that's how you're interpreting it.
So the story I'm telling myself is that this is a much bigger thing than it actually is.
And that's really interesting too, because it's not just going through the list. It's even a step before that, and you're feeling all those feelings.
You're feeling it,
and maybe you don't verbalize those yet. You don't know why you're even feeling it. But once you start making that list of like, what am I really afraid of? Oh, it's this, this, and this, and then you can look at it,
right,
and go, oh, that's ridiculous.
Well, and the other thing is, when you start feeling it in your body, right? When you start feeling it, like your chest feels tight, or your stomach doesn't feel good, or you having a hard time catching your breath, that means you are really internalizing something.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously you care about it, right? We all care about our companies. We want them to be successful. And sometimes it does physically hurt, right? As you're like, oh, wow, this is my baby. And now someone's saying the baby's ugly and it feels really bad. The other thing is, thinking about rejection. I've always been in companies where we raised a lot of money. And for whatever reason, whenever investors reject you, they usually feel some compulsion to give you a long list of all the reasons why your company sucks, or
just
or will never.
Their own,
and it feels really terrible when you're sitting there hearing someone, go through this long list of reasons why. And I finally had to get myself to a point where I would just say, that wasn't the right money for me. And I do the same thing with customers. That wasn't the right customer for me. For some reason, that was not the right customer for me. I'm just going to accept that, and I'm going to move on. Yeah. I'm not going to internalize all the stuff that they gave me, because I have other customers who are the right customer and who like the product and who are doing well with the product. So,
it's so important to focus on those. Take the nuggets, take the things you can learn, but focus on, okay, wait a second. This was one person out of 50.
Right. Or maybe it's 1 out of 3,
Sure.
But the other thing is, as you're building a company, you're figuring it out on the go. And you can't compare yourself to more mature companies or organizations. You just can't do it. I used to hate going to pitch events because I would sit there and I would compare my worst day to somebody else's best PowerPoint slides. Right. And that feels terrible, right? Because you're up there thinking, wow, their business is so much better than mine. They're so much smarter and they're so crisp, and, I'm not. When the truth is, they've got good slides, and that's probably all they've got right now.
Right.
Maybe they do have more, but in many cases, You know, they're doing the same thing. They're sitting there, listening to you saying, wow, my stuff's not that good. Because again, we're all kind of putting up, it's like a first date, right?
Right.
You put forth your best foot.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I want to say is getting into that mode of comparison is really harmful to every entrepreneur.
Sure.
You have to live in your own place. You have to say, okay, this is my space. These are my customers. I know that these people will be successful. My business partner, Rutger, and I used to do this thing when we come out of a particularly awful investor meeting. We called it rebuilding the house of cards, where we'd sit in the car and we would tell each other, okay, patients really like it. This doctor said it was the best product he'd ever used. We're finishing cases faster. So we'd go through all the reasons, we can get the cost of goods down. We know we can do these 3 things and that's coming. So we would remind each other, why we still believed in it.
Right.
And kind of reconstruct, really that house of cards was our hope.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And that's so important too, to have that partner who is on board also. It's okay if, you can sit there and do it yourself too, but if you do have that partner, you really need that person to be just as on board. They're like, okay, we're going to go through this right now and go through this process.
Yeah, our motto used to be, don't freak out today, freak out tomorrow. and our other promise was, hey, I'm going to freak out today, but you can't freak out at the same time. We're not allowed to freak out on the same day. Someone's got to maintain,
I love it.
The emotional integrity of the company while the other one's having a nervous breakdown.
Ooh, that's great.
Well,
I love this too. And I love this conversation of it all. Because I think the most that's really even being talked about out there, I know Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the emotional intelligence side of things and really paying attention along those. And I love that conversation's happening because it's correct in so many ways. But I think there's a layer to this that isn't, people aren't making YouTube videos about
about the emotional hardships.
Right, because people aren't clicking, but it's so critical to have, so important. So I appreciate you sharing.
Well, I will share one other thing, that in the course of my first startup, Lingual Care, all 4 of the principals by the end were divorced.
Oh my goodness.
And
good grief.
And obviously everybody has their own reasons, but I think that when you are so involved in your company, it's really easy to neglect your personal life and to think that the company is the most important thing. Because if you can have that financial success, it's going to fix all the problems in your family.
Right. And just like you were talking about when you were going through selling, like you see, I just need to get there.
Yeah.
I just need to get right there.
If I can just get there, everything will be good. And that didn't turn out to be the case.
Well, it tends to not ever be, because there's going to be another there. As soon as you get there, and as soon as
that was one of the things that actually surprised me. So the day that I sold my company, it wasn't a particularly celebratory event.
Well,
it didn't. It sort of felt like, well, this is everything I've worked for. This is why I did all of this. So now I made it. So here I am.
Was it worth everything?
I don't know. I expected it to feel bigger, but it sort of felt like, well, that's what I came here to do. That's what I did. And I think that's part of the shutting off your emotions, right? Not wanting to deal with everything. And so in the end, it felt kind of flat.
But I've heard that from a lot of people, though, too, that about that feeling, about that event. And maybe that plays into it for a lot of them. But part of it is just like, okay, well, let's go back to work.
Right, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, rather than... So people either have like that healthy mindset of the outside world's like, you should be celebrating. Like, no, I'm going back to work. That was awesome. I'm going back to work.
Well, you think about the next hill. That's
right.
Sort of what I was like, well, okay, we crossed that one. Now what's the next thing that we need to do?
And I think
maybe that's just the mentality of entrepreneurs. Right?
I think there's something good in that, because the opposite is, all right, I'm done. I'm finished. And then there's just an empty cavern, of what do I feel, with that now?
Well, I think the other part of that is that at least for me, I really idealized what that company was going to be in the beginning. You know, one of the other things I talked about at the Entrepreneur Summit is I said, you know, starting a company is like falling in love, right? So you jump into this relationship with all these feelings of it's going to be great, and you're so excited, and you're feeling the adrenaline and the endorphins, and you get into it, and it's never like that idealized version in your mind.
Of course.
And not that it's necessarily disappointing, but you don't let go. At least I didn't let go of that idealism. So when it was all done and I started thinking about the next thing, it was kind of like, well, maybe I can make that happen now.
I see.
Maybe I can make the next company bigger, better than this one.
Right.
So again, I think as a person, one of my maybe personality traits is that I'm kind of restless and mostly dissatisfied.
Which sounds like a lot of entrepreneurs, right?
You know, I always think there's something that could be better, and what about this? And it's hard for me to just sit there and clap and say, oh, everything is so great.
Right.
Because I think, well, 90% of it's great, but I'm not really liking this part over here, right? I always, you know, someone can paint a whole room and I'll walk in and I won't say, wow, this room looks great. I'll see that spot up on the molding where you dripped some paint, which is terrible in some ways because most people want some accolades. They don't want you to walk in and point out the drip.
Right. Maybe there's a balance, right?
So again, I think as an entrepreneur, I have to force myself a little bit to recognize small milestones. And that was one of the things that through this last company, because it's taken so much longer to get our product into the market, was not just hanging my hat on we have to get into the U.S. market, because I would be disappointed for a long time, but looking at those smaller milestones and saying, okay, we finished this. Let's check this box and feel good about it.
Yeah, just like you're doing after these bad investor meetings, you need to do the same thing all along the way on the journey, for sure.
And I think sometimes you also need to find smaller things, maybe outside the business, that will make you feel like you've accomplished something. Because if you're in a business with a long R&D tunnel, it just feels like you're never getting out of there, and it's just the same. And so I started doing weird things, like when I felt particularly disappointed, I would go home and I would shine all of the shoes in my closet. And then I would look at them and feel really good about the fact that my shoes looked good.
Like there's something I can control. I did something, yeah.
I expended effort, and there was an outcome that is visible.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine being in a... It's one thing if you have this product, this service, and you just have to get it in front of people.
Right.
That's very different from let me go try to make this product and service from scratch. And it's not in your control. It's not like you're going in the garage every day building it. So it's just...
Well, and we make medical devices, which, you know, they're highly regulated, and the way that you manufacture them and that you document them and that you, test them, it takes a long time, and it's expensive. And, it doesn't always work the first time. Right. So sometimes it works, and then you find out, oh gosh, we should have done this a little bit more, differently. So it just takes longer. And I think in companies like that, or if you're doing some huge software project, find small ways to make yourself feel like you've accomplished something. So back in my college days, I worked on my family's ranch. My mom had remarried a rancher after my father died. And one of the things I loved about the ranch is you worked really hard, and at the end of the day, you could see something. Like, oh, I built a fence, right? My arms hurt, but there's a fence.
Yeah.
Or, we moved all these cattle from this side of the ranch to that side of the ranch, and now I can see that they're over here.
There's something to be said for that. There really is. I think
there is.
In our humanness, like it's in there, right?
Well, when you're the CEO, no one's patting you on the back.
True.
No one's saying, oh, Jason, you did such a great job today.
Yeah. I only hire people who will tell me that.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So, see, I'm not hiring the right people, obviously.
Exactly. Problem solved.
But doing small things to celebrate. We, at Lingual Care, one of our employees one day was at Walgreens and found this this chicken, this stuffed chicken in the bargain bin,
Mm-hmm.
and it had little googly eyes, and you squeezed its wing, and it played that chicken dance song from the baseball games, which is annoying, right? It would flap its little arms. And so we started doing this thing where whenever even something small that was good happened, anybody could grab the chicken and call a chicken dance.
Nice.
And then everybody would sort of drift out of their cubes in their offices and come in, and we'd celebrate that moment. You know,
Awesome.
like the one customer we've been trying to get for a while finally bought.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we hit our monthly number early, or, you know, whatever. But
and it does sort of focus everyone's attention. It's like, okay, we're moving. We're moving those cows, right?
We're moving those cows. Something good happened, and here's this little chicken to remind us of that. And I found that once everybody gathered together, people were more inclined to talk about their own small victories.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easy when something goes wrong. You know, you blast out this company-wide email, and you call a meeting, and everybody's like, okay, we got this problem, and this happened. And but when it gets fixed, nobody says anything.
Chirp, chirp. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that getting people in the mindset of, it's fine to blast it out when things are bad, but if something good happens, let's talk about that too.
Yeah. Because,
you know, we're all sort of in charge of everyone else's morale when you're in a startup company.
Yeah.
And as a CEO, you want to hear about those small victories. I did anyway. Even the smallest ones.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a good point too, because a lot of things aren't always making their way up the chain, like good and bad. We hear about the things like, oh, you know, this was crumbling, and I didn't hear about it. But yeah, what about the great things that were going on that you didn't hear about as well?
Yeah, you'll always hear about the problems.
Yeah, they'll make their way up there.
those you don't have to go seek out. They will find you. But the smaller victories, I think, are absolutely important. Again, as you're trying to get down that road and maintain your own morale. So even going and asking people, hey, what happened that was good today?
Yeah. Make them focus on it too.
Make them focus on it. Make them tell you, oh, well, I did have this happen. Or I solved this customer issue, or something, you know. Yeah. In my world, it was always related to the customers. And I think that's the other thing that's kind of tough now. Most of my customers are German, so I can't go show up and talk to them a lot.
Right.
Many of them don't speak English. So I need my English-speaking employees to relay that information.
Nice. So dig in a little bit too, because I do think this company you're launching, the product that you have, is absolutely incredible. I know it's not here in the U.S. yet. Just a matter of time.
Yes, it's just a matter of time.
Any moment now, it's going to get approved.
Any moment now. Well, you know, because I'm a geek, I do carry product samples in my purse. Nice. Yes.
Always.
Here's our tooth. Want to make sure you get a nice view of that. So, you know, if you have a tooth that's gone bad, you have a couple of options today. You can get a dental bridge. Where they grind down 2 of the adjacent teeth, and then they hang 3 teeth on it, right? So it's kind of not the best solution, because you do have to destroy healthy teeth in order to accommodate that bridge. The other option is a dental implant, which is a screw. So they basically pull your tooth, let it heal up, and then surgically shape the patient. You know, surgically shape you with a drill to accommodate that screw. They let that heal in, they go back in, and they, you know, cut it open. It's probably better that I show you with my hands, as opposed to if I brought some flashcards showing this procedure.
I don't want to see those.
You don't want to see it.
And that's, you were telling me, like, that's over how long? Like,
it takes many months. It takes many months. The procedure works. It really is the highest standard of care that we have right now. But we looked at that and said, isn't there a better way? What if you could shape the device to fit the patient as opposed to shaping the patient to fit the device? Because we have the technology now.
Sure.
We've got very affordable 3D X-ray machines, CAD/CAM systems, milling. So it's very simple. 3D printing is coming in that area too. It's very simple to make a device that will fit that patient exactly.
Awesome.
And we think that's a really great option for patients in the U.S. You know, we've had some success in Europe. We've gotten good feedback. and we're now taking that to go to the FDA and hopefully get the product cleared here in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very excited about that because I feel like we have an opportunity to change a patient's experience and make it minimally invasive and, dare I say, better.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because you were talking about the technology that is used today is the same one that's been how many?
Well, so dental bridges have been around 100 years, and the dental implant, first one's replaced more than 50 years ago in Sweden by Dr. Brennemark, and the technology is about the same. It's a titanium, cylinder or screw, and sometimes the shape is a little bit different, or the threading pattern is a little bit different, but the technology is effectively the same. There hasn't been a big leap, in terms of what that product looks like. I think if you laid them all out on a table, it might even be hard for some of the CEOs of those companies to tell you which ones belong to them.
Right. Because
they do look very, very similar. So we think it's great to have another option for patients.
Oh, yeah. So, and what is that? Because I've certainly not submitted anything to FDA trying to go through that process. Can you give us kind of a snapshot of what that even, dare I say, nightmare of a process is?
It is.
But important one, for sure.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously the FDA is there to make sure that products are safe and effective for intended use. And though, they safeguard our public health.
Yeah.
And so, they definitely have a pretty rigorous process. And as a company, it does take time to get through that. I think one of the things that I learned, because the last product that we had was a class 1 device, like braces. Mm-hmm. So you don't have the same level of documentation that you have to provide.
And is that based on kind of invasiveness, or?
So there are three classifications. Class 1 is everything from a toothbrush to braces. It's something that's not going to stay in your body.
Okay.
Class 2 devices are things like dental implants that will stay in your body, but they don't have any kind of an active ingredient. Gotcha. Like a drug is a Class 3 device.
Okay.
Or a heart implant that's got some electromechanical component, or so. Just depending on how invasive it is, basically. And dental implants used to be Class 3, but they were deregulated to Class 2 because they've been around for so long and they've proven to be safe and effective.
Gotcha.
So it's been a real education process for me. You always hear bad things about regulatory agencies. I found that the FDA has been pretty straightforward, telling us what we needed to provide to them.
Okay.
And letting us,
because that's what I was wondering too.
Yeah.
It's
not a mystery,
right? And that's huge because there are organizations and all sorts of regulatory bodies that it's sort of a mystery of. They just tell you yes or no.
You throw a lot of stuff in there, and you don't know how it's going to come out.
Right.
No, they've been very transparent with what they want from us, and that's been helpful. And it hasn't gone as fast as I would have liked it to go, but what can you do?
Right. Well, that's awesome. So we're hoping October, November-ish, maybe.
I can't predict. It's up to FDA, not us. But we would love to see something done by the end of the year.
Yeah, that'll be great. So I would love for you to let people know how they can follow along your journey, and then eventually the company as it rolls out here.
So our website is replicatetooth.com. Okay. You can go check it out and see how it works. We have lots of videos and animations that patient information.
Nice.
And if you're interested, and hopefully you don't need a dental implant, but if should that arise, that need arise, you can also just give us your email address and we'll send you a notification when it becomes available. We will not send you a lot of unwanted email, I promise. And tell your dentist about it, because we think that patients are going to be a really key component of getting the word out. As these days, if you have a need for a procedure, the chance that you're going to go do a lot of research is high, right? Dentists are busy. They're doing a lot of stuff. So sometimes they're not always aware of what's the latest and greatest because there's so many information sources out there.
That makes sense.
So we find that one way that many dentists actually learn about our product is because a patient has done the research and then they've gone in and told their dentist, this is what I want, and then the dentist contacts us. That's happening in Europe now. So that's a really good way. Just because your dentist doesn't know about it doesn't mean he's out of the loop, right? They got a lot of products coming at them. They're busy. They have a day job. So we even have some information sheets that patients can download and take into their dentist or email to them if they want to.
Perfect. Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much for
coming on. It's been great. Thank you so much. I feel very passionately about this whole concept or the topic of that emotional journey of an entrepreneur and helping each other manage through that process. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that today.
Absolutely.
I really do.
I'm so glad you did.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's great.
Thanks so much to Lea Ellermeier for being on the show. Just a great conversation. We continued that conversation afterwards, and just I think there's really something to facilitating these conversations around the emotional side of entrepreneurship, and just having somebody to pick up a phone and talk to. I'm amazingly fortunate to have some incredible people in my life that I can do that, and I'm purposeful with that to make sure that I do. It's so I think so many people don't have that, and I think there's a solution out there that is necessary and very achievable in this day and age of being able to connect all over the place, but using that connection to really facilitate real world connection just like this. So please do follow along with Lea as she gets approved through the FDA on her product, but also pick up her book on Amazon and follow her personal journey as she goes through all of this. And I really appreciate you being here. If you like episodes like this, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, or if you're listening on iTunes, leave us a review over there. Helps us get found and all that good stuff. We'll see you next time.
It's Saturday night. It was Saturday night and I'm feeling kinda silly. Winter coat on cause the air was chilly, but I'ma make my way out to the record spot. Gotta find some new breaks for the beats to rock. I gotta come with the flavor like some Lifesavers. On now and late is Dr. Beat Maker. If I'm a player, it's like your tape deck. And if you miss the gig, then take a rain check. Stacks of wax piled high to the ceiling. Need a U-Haul truck if I would think about stealing, but it's not my steed, so I commence with the digging, no kidding. Something that'll keep the beats hitting what I'm getting. So much to choose from, bro.